we look at things like how to win the day or daily non-negotiables, things that you can do every single day that will get you close to the long-term goal. We liken it to building a wall. The goal is to build the wall, the outcome, but we don't ever focus on that anymore. We focus on laying brick by brick by brick. And before you know it, you've reached the outcome. And this is the process, the daily actions.
Dan, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Look forward to the conversation.
I'm delighted to have you here. This is going to be a masterclass for business leaders on elite performance. I'm going to go straight in. What's the one trait you see in elite business leaders you don't see in regular people?
Resilience. Being resilient to a setback. So I could say being single-minded, I could say being relentless, but for me, resilience, because we know in business, in sport, in life in general, it's not a linear path. If it was, everyone would be doing it. There's going to be humps in the road. And it's how resilient you are to any setback. Do you crumble at the first sign of a potential defeat, or do you say, okay, I'm going to sit with that for a moment. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to review. I'm going to plan how I can get better and how I can overcome that hump. I think you've just got to be resilient to those setbacks to keep moving forwards. And when you are, they're the people who are the highest performers for me.
I'm so excited to get you on because there's such a translation, I believe, between sport and business, and you merge both worlds. So your job day to day is what?
So broad overview, I'm a high performance coach. I work with professional athletes, but also high level executives all around the world. We have numerous businesses in the online space. The great thing about COVID, there wasn't much that was great, but the great thing about post-COVID is people are a lot more receptive to digital and remote coaching. And that's really helped our business. I currently reside in Dubai. We're here in London as we shoot this. I'm back in training camp currently with Conor Benn in preparation for the rematch against Chris Eubank Jr. on November the 15th at Tottenham Stadium. So I do have these private projects that I go on either with high-level execs or professional athletes. But generally speaking, a lot of our businesses are online, all centered around health and performance optimization.
Before COVID, what were you doing?
More of the same. Mr. Will already know, Gary. Ask me anything outside of performance, I'd really be struggling. But joking aside, so I've been doing this nearly 20 years now. And pre-COVID, I was still doing an element of in-person work. And I haven't done lots of that since then. We have a team of coaches in Dubai. We have a team of coaches in London and Switzerland as well who deliver a lot more of the in-person work. But it's all been centered around helping people become better in whatever they are currently doing.
So that shift online, was that a personal choice for you for your lifestyle, or is that how you saw the world going?
A bit of both, if I'm honest. I think for me, it was the lifestyle, and the move to Dubai was certainly the lifestyle. I felt like I'd hit the summit of the mountain in the UK. I have an incredible network. We'd achieved a lot, certainly with the professional athletes, but I always knew there was something more. And having that growth mindset, if you look at Carol Dweck's research, growth versus fixed mindset of 30 years ago, I always wanted to achieve more. And to do that, I believed I needed to be in a slightly different environment to do so. And Dubai for me, the climate is nice. You know, I wake up every day and get some sunlight in the morning, which is certainly good. But also the fact that everyone is trying to unlock that next level, and people are a lot more open and receptive to growth there, in my opinion. So that was why I made that decision, and why we moved things into the online space and really doubled down on that. There was also the shift post-COVID, as I mentioned, that people, again, are a lot more receptive to that. So there was an element of, curating the life that I wanted to curate, which meant that moving online was really the key. But there's still a lot of in-person work that we do with various different projects. So a bit of both, I think, is important. And certainly with the growth of AI now, I truly believe that the in-person element is needed and is what's going to enable people to really build solidified relationships.
I agree with you completely. I think whenever there's a massive shift one way, you always have to look, what would the opposite be? For every force, there's an equal and opposite reaction. What would the opposite be? I completely agree with you. I think augmenting in person with digital is the key. So you talked there about, I always wanted more, to unlock more. I'm always fascinated by, when I chat to lead performers, about how do you decide what more and success is?
For me, it comes with the goal and where you're going. And one of my favorite quotes, Gary, if one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. You're literally treading water. You're going round in circles. So going back to more, you only know what more is if you have clarity with the vision and knowing where you're going. Some people say they know what their goals are, but really they're just looking through fog. When we clear the fog, we get crystal clear with the vision. We can then reverse engineer the process and put the steps in place to reach whatever that goal is. So more to me is, again, getting clear with that. We have a very clear values, vision, mission as part of my business, Perform 365. We want to work with over 1,000 men worldwide to optimize their health and performance and enable them to unlock the next level. And for us and my business especially, we also run another mastermind for coaches who are looking to grow and scale their business, but it's never a money thing. The monetary value is secondary to the impact that you can have, because we believe, and I believe in the near 20 years that I've worked with thousands of people across the globe, that if I can provide value to one's life and help them unlock the next level, I'll get paid whatever I'll get paid, and the growth will be there anyway. And going back to more, that's what I will achieve.
Bring me back to when you were making this decision to move to Dubai, because I do retreats and I do kind of mastermind sessions with founders. And the biggest thing we work on for the first 24 hours is blasting through the fog, as you say, because we have narratives. We tell ourselves, oh, I can't do this because of that, or our business does this because of that. This is how we've always done it. Those famous words that kill growth and kill any kind of ambition. Bring me back to your personal decision and how you blast through the fog. Like, do you sit down? Is it a continual process? What is it?
There is no secret sauce of this. I'm going to go very basic. I see you've got your notepad there. I will get a pen and paper and a notepad and draw a line down the middle and go pros and cons. As simple as that. What are the benefits of me moving to Dubai? I will clearly list them. I've said a couple already. The climate, the growth mindset. There's, of course, tax benefits there as well that we all know, plus many more. The other side of that, would be the negatives. Okay, what are the negatives? Well, in the middle months of the summer, it's very, very hot there. So you'd have to go somewhere else. So to your last question, I'll come back to this one, Gary, actually, is curating the life that I want to curate. I have a very clear 12-month strategy of how I want to live. And the only curveball I've been thrown at the moment is Mr. Conor Benn getting me back in London for this training camp. Outside of that is that I want to be in Dubai for pretty much 9 months of a year. And within 3 months of those, July, August, maybe September, or maybe June, July, August, actually, I'd like to be in Europe. And every June I go to Quinta del Labo, strong Irish contingent over there.
Massive, yes.
To the campus. I've been going for a few years, and I work with Premier League footballers in their off season and also some high level executives. And in fact, we're going to be putting something together there next year as well. And I'll spend 3 to 4 weeks over there. Then I'll come back to London, see my mum, and do some business meetings. And this year, actually, myself and my partner went to Bali for a few weeks as well, which was lovely. So that's really the ideal for me in terms of how I want to live my life and curating the life that I want to live.
So you will design that. You'll sit down, map out the 12 months, go, this is where I want to be. This is the time. I love how specific that is. 3 weeks here, 1 month there. And our mutual friend, Mark Abraham, has set us up with this.
Yeah, that's a big shout out to Mark.
One of the great guys. I absolutely love him. We'll sit down, we'll meet up, and it could be 2-3 hours. We'll be sitting there just talking about life. And he reminds me actually a lot about you, how you carry yourself. He said, so I asked him, I reached out, I was like, give me the things people don't know about Dan. I was like, he's an incredibly disciplined guy, works in elite performers. And he was laughing. He sent me a voice note and he was laughing. He goes, he is the most disciplined man. Even in friendship, he's disciplined. He's like, he'll be there early. He'll look immaculate. His gym gear will match. His clothes will match. His hair will be perfect. He is the most disciplined and professional person I know at every single thing he does. He wanted to know, where does that come from?
Firstly, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And there's no BS with me, Gary. Like, what you see is what you get. This is how I live my life. It might not be for everyone, but for the people that I have impact with, they get it. Like Conor, for example. The reason I got back in with Conor specifically is because I'm not just the sets and reps guy in the gym who can write a program. It's I lead from the front. It's the environment. The standards are very, very high, and I will vocalize if someone's not adhering to those standards because the margins are so small, whether it be business or the highest level of professional sports. Where they come from. Now, this is interesting because I'm always a look forward guy. I never really look back. And this is my problem. This is something I can work on, the reflection piece. So where would it have come from? Interestingly, so I used to box to a very low level, just to be clear. Now I'm the guy who's the other side of the ropes, which is much where I prefer to be. And I used to get a bus for about an hour to this boxing gym 3 days a week. And it taught me discipline. Outside of that, I also used to play football for Harrow and Hillingdon Borough, and I was living in Hampton, in Richmond Borough at the time. It was a schlep to get to, right? I used to get the 111 bus to Heathrow Airport, change the bus again, and get another one. It was probably 2 hours to go there. And it's interesting because someone actually asked me this question on the previous pod, and I was silent for a good 30 seconds because I had no idea where it came from. And in reflection, I truly believe that these moments in my life when I was young and growing up really shaped who I am today is to have discipline towards a goal. I wanted to succeed in both domains. I valued both environments. And whether I was strategic and tactile at that age about it, likely I wasn't, I think it has shaped the person that I am today. And now I live by those standards. I really believe in the standards. I believe the standard you walk past is your new standard. And every day I try and improve my own performance in everything that I do. And I try and have impact with every conversation that I have. And I want the other person to walk away with a bit of value. And if I don't know the answer to the question, I'll go away and try and find it.
How do you maintain that 12 months a year? Because Mark also made an interesting point. He's like, he can't have a bad day because you're so intimately connected to people like Conor. You're in a camp. It's so intense. You're with him 24/7 for an extended period of time. You know, you can't have one of those days. You're like, I'm just not feeling it today.
Yeah.
So how do you maintain that?
That might sound very intense to the listeners, but to me, it's just the way I live my life. It's, I wouldn't say easy, but it's just how I show up. I have systems to everything, which I'm sure we can unpack and peel that onion back further. I won't ever show it to someone like Conor, but Tony Sims, the head boxing coach, funny enough, we have such a great relationship. He's very old school, and he merges his old school ethos and my kind of new science-backed research methods together, and it works really well to reach peak performance. And he jokingly says, I love this, Dan, because I throw my toys out the pram occasionally. I really do, because my standards are so high about certain things not adhering to those standards. You imagine how intense and immersive a high-performance training camp, where the margins are so small, is over a 8 to 9 week period, 9 weeks actually. It's a lot. So I will never showcase that in front of the athlete. I'll always show up and bring my best self. That's never in question. But I have my moments as well, of course I do. But as soon as I have them, the volcano erupts and we go again.
But bringing back to Dan in the morning, right? No one's around. You're just not feeling it. Because this is the bit I want to dig into for our listeners, because our listeners are founders, they're high performers, they want to get to the next level, and they're under a lot of pressure. Like, you're under immense pressure. You've 9 weeks to one of the biggest moments of your life. How do you manage those days where it isn't optimal?
Yeah, clear systems. And we have an approach in Perform 365, 4 pillars: training, nutrition, recovery, and mindset. And that might not sound innovative, and it's not. We, of course, go very deep into each of those pillars and how they synergistically merge together to improve performance. But if someone is starting their journey, just keep it simple. Focus on training, focus on nutrition, focus on recovery, and focus on mindset. How might that look? So from a training point of view, we know that not every day is created equal. You said you smashed a high rocks workout yesterday, which is a very intense workout in an environment where everyone is trying to improve. And there's an element of competition in that environment, of course. That's a very different session to if I was to go and do 30 minutes on an upright bike with a heart rate of 140 BPM average. The stressor of that session is very different. We use a traffic light system. Let's go with red and green. The green is that low end bike session. The red is the high rocks workout you did, or the 12K run that I did with Conor Benn, where he was in 2nd gear and I was in 5th gear yesterday. But, you know, again, it's because the stimulus and stress, though it was the same for me and Conor, my stress was heightened because his level is ahead of mine as a professional athlete. I always do my best to keep up. So looking at the training stress and managing that accordingly is very important. Now let's look at nutrition. Nutrition and training need to merge together hand in glove. Not every day should be created equal from a nutritional point of view. Certain sessions might need a higher fueling element. You might need to improve and increase muscle and liver glycogen with increased carbohydrates. If you're doing a 12 to 15K run, you probably should have some carbohydrates to fuel that run and then, of course, recover from said run. Protein, an essential macronutrient, which aids muscle protein synthesis, the regeneration of tissue that you break down in a workout, but also improves satiety, the feeling of fullness for longer. If someone wants to shred a little bit of body fat, probably want to get high protein into your diet. The World Health Organization's recommended allowance of protein, Gary, is ludicrously low. It's 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight. For context, a 100 kilo male, that's only 80 grams of protein per day. We actually recommend, on the guidance of Dr. James Morhan, our nutritionist at Perform 365, anywhere between 2 and 2.4 grams per kilo of body weight. So 200 to 240 grams per day. You can see that's night and day difference. Then you look at the recovery piece. Something we say is you only train as hard as to what you can recover from. So if your training stress is high, you have to recover optimally. I'll use Conor as an example because I'm in the mix of training camp. We'll see how many name drops he gets today. But his recovery at the moment is incredible. I have his Whoop on my phone. I analyze his sleep. Because otherwise he'll get in his head. And there might be a few white lies being told every now and again if his sleep wasn't great.
Okay, so he doesn't see it.
He doesn't see it.
Oh, interesting.
I tell him. When it's good, he does see it. Yeah, there's a method to the madness. And but he trains so hard. He's at 100% every day. There's no, I'm just going to dip my toe in and do 60%. You've seen the way he trains, Gary. Because of that, he has to recover well. In fact, we've introduced some new recovery modalities this camp. We've got red light therapy. We've got a HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which has been incredible.
I've seen you using this.
Absolutely incredible. That really aids recovery and really helps him sleep better. In fact, we've seen a 20% improvement in his sleep scores because of many interventions, but we believe that has actually had a very positive effect. So that's the recovery piece.
20% is huge. When you're already at the elite level, a couple of percent is huge, but that's incredible. Recovery, I love that thing. You can only train as hard as your recovery, because there is an element with high performers. They're addicts. They'll overdo everything if they're doing it. And a lot of founders they're addicted to the game. And, we talked about it off camera, like they love numbers and they love like push. How do you get high performers to recover as hard as they train?
It goes back to your other question of, Dan, how do you do this every day? I wouldn't be able to do it every day if I did not recover optimally and aid a restful night's sleep. The number one recovery tool that costs absolutely nothing, Gary, is sleep. So we can optimize the sleep environment, we know we're going to recover better. So going back to the founders and being foot on the gas and in that kind of high sympathetic drive all of the time, we've got to have an appreciation that if you are foot on the gas, and people listening would have been there, athletes I've worked with have been there, I've been there myself and I've learned from this, you're going to at a point hit a bit of a wall and then come crumbling down. So I think it's really important to know that we're not superhuman. We have to look at science, we have to look at the research, and we have to listen to the experts out there to say, okay, I should really improve my sleep. If I'm only having 4 hours a night, I might be able to do that for 2, maybe 3 nights. But what is the decline? What markers then start going down? Cognition, mental clarity, sharpness, irritability. So am I then bringing my best self to that occasion, to that conversation, to that negotiation, to closing that potential deal? Well, again, it goes back to the values factor. Dr. John DeMartini, great book, is if you value what you do on a daily basis from a business point of view, which evidently you just said they do there, the founders, if they aren't getting recovery, well, you've got to interlink. Why is that sleep important? It doesn't take just someone like me saying, go and sleep more. Oh, great, Dan, cheers for the insights. You've got to link that to what's important and intrinsically drives that individual every single day. And now over time, if you can then start optimizing and making improvements, you get that buy-in. It's then motivating for them. It then improves their performance over time. Similar with Conor, I got the buy-in very early on with hyperbaric oxygen therapy because I had the data, I had the numbers to showcase the improvements. And then I get the buy-in and then he wants to do it. In fact, he wants to do it too much. I'm like, look, we've got a set protocol here. Sometimes less is more is the right way to do it.
There's a lot to unpack there. This is incredible. This is exactly like I talk about the business, the brain, and the body on this podcast, because as I've evolved as a person and as the podcast has evolved, I've just noticed certain traits within founders that they can, overdo things. And there's definitely a gap between business performance and body brain performance. There's almost a resistance. Good friend of mine, incredibly successful founder, but there's a gap there between the rest of his performance. How do you work with people to bridge that gap?
It starts with the goals again. What is important to you? Why do you get up out of bed every single morning? And likely for a high-level executive, it might be an exit. It might be business growth exponentially month on month, looking at P&L, whatever their goals are. So when we identify that, then we can link everything else back to that specific goal. But I'd also try and peel the onion back further. If these are, the traits of the individuals we work with, primarily male, quite ego-driven, myself included, and they might be a little bit resistant to change. They might have, sticking with boxing, the defenses up. We've got to start trying to break those defense systems down and peel that onion back for further, multiple layers, to really get them explaining what they really want, what truly intrinsically drives them. But also, what do they struggle with? What is the performance gap for them? And they won't tell you right away unless you built and nurtured a relationship with that individual and their guard has come down. And that's really when the magic happens. Because if they say, "Look, Dan, I'm super successful. The business has grown, or I've just had a 9-figure exit, like a few of our guys, but actually my health it's in tatters. It has to improve because I'm not going to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I've been foot on the gas for the last 5 years building towards this exit, and I know I can't do it anymore. I feel quite unfulfilled. I know my health is not right. I've started a young family. I want to be around for my kid in 10 years' time. Health now needs to be the priority." What I would also say is it doesn't need to be an either or, Gary. It doesn't need to be business and health and they solely focus on one, because we know there's huge synergy between health optimization and improving the business. I've mentioned a few words earlier: cognition, mental clarity, sharpness, and just overall health. We do a lot of tests with our business like VO2 max, the gold standard test of the cardiorespiratory system. We know there's a direct correlation between improvement of VO2 max scores and longevity and, sorry to sound morbid, reduced mortality risks. So if we can link that in with their goals of improving P&L for their business or getting an exit, then we have a really clear system.
Yeah. Hollow success is kind of the term I was kind of coming up with over the last couple of years, because I'd ask people, what did it feel like when you exited? And the honest ones will kind of go, didn't feel like anything. That is, to me, the saddest thing in the entire world, to pursue something for decades often, and then for it not to be what you wanted to pursue. And you read my mind about, is it an either or? Because when I chat to people, I'd be a little bit obsessive, a lot obsessive about my health and how I live and how I train. And when there's almost like a hesitancy or like a fear for people to engage with that. They're like, "Oh yeah, but I can't do that because of this. I can't do that because of that. I have kids, I have a business, blah, blah, blah." How do people who are listening start to change their own mental models and start to change that narrative? Because we all have narratives in our head. Often they're holding us back. How do people work to change that narrative?
Press pause for a moment and zoom out, look through a different lens, and then identify what really is important to me. Tony Robbins used to speak about like the bucket analogy. So he'd have a few buckets. The three that tend to spring to mind that 90% of people agree with is health being one, relationships, family being another, and then business being another. Of course, there could be one or two more. And you don't get an infinite amount of water to put in these buckets. So they'll put a little bit into the family and the relationships. They'll put a lot into their business. In fact, it's overflowing. And then in this instance, this one is pretty dry, the health bucket. So I think it's important to identify what's important to you, what the overall picture looks like, and that you don't have to have one without the other. And as we said, in fact, improving them all together can really enable growth. What I will say is I don't want to come onto your podcast and say I've got all the answers here. The relationship bucket for me for a long period of time was not getting much love. And that's something that I was of the outlook, as you've just alluded to. I can't do it. I need to drive my business forwards. I need to be single-minded in my business. This is all just a distraction unless they're adding to what I do. And, thankfully now, I've got a girlfriend in Dubai, and that comes with its problems as well with the amount of travel that I do. But that's an area that I'm trying to improve on. So yes, I can talk all things health and performance, but I'm not sitting here and, going to BS anyone and say I've got all the answers to everything and I've got it all covered across the board. Everyone's life is different. People have families and things as well. So what I will say is that we do have a very simple, easy to apply, curated system over the last 20 years that truly gets people to the next level.
Well, let's get tactical. Let's give people a masterclass in terms of, because I love these podcasts to be, narrative based. We chat about your story, but then I love people to be able to kind of go, okay, I'm going to take away these 4 things that Dan and Gary chatted about and start applying them now. So you talk about systems. I'm obsessed with systems. My gym is the same. I train 6 days a week, every single class, the same time, the same place, everything. So talk to me then about systems. What systems can people apply either to the buckets or across your kind of training, nutrition, recovery mindset?
Let's start with goals and let's look at outcome versus process. So identifying a clear outcome is important. I said it earlier. You've got to know where you're going. So that's really key. How might that look? If someone's joining our performance program, a lot of the high-level executives like numbers. So we follow an objective-led approach. There's no guesswork and plucking things out of the air. So we'll do comprehensive testing on the front end with VO2 max test, DEXA scans, plus many other strength and blood diagnostics that's analysed by our team of doctors. We'll then build a bespoke plan off the basis of that. So that's our baseline score. We'll then do that again in 6 months and 12 months' time to showcase the improvements, setting very clear goals along the way. That's the outcome. Equally, if someone's getting married, they might want to look great for their wedding and look back at the wedding photos, or they're going on holiday with their friends. They might want to look awesome in a pair of swim shorts in Mykonos, wherever they go.
Do people tell you the truth? Do people tell you what they really want?
With a lot of work, not straight away. This is the peel the onion back analogy, Gary. And it's a great question, is that it takes time. It takes time to build a relationship. I feel like that for me is one of my strengths, is that I've done this long enough to know when someone is BSing me. And I do not want to hear lose weight, tone up. In fact, I will just, I'll be sitting there and waiting until someone gives me more. So yeah, that's just not enough, because that's not something that when you hit that hump in the road, which we said earlier, everyone will do, they won't keep moving forwards because it's not deep enough. It's not intrinsically driven. I want to know that, okay, someone joined our programs. We were the big family over in Switzerland. This guy is incredibly successful. I won't disclose more than that. He joined our program at 130 kilograms, and he was very, very heavy. He's with us for 12 months. He's actually got a coach from Ireland over in Switzerland with him, and he's doing so well. He's doing so well. But we had to really identify what the goals were that were linked to more than him. And I'm mindful, I don't want to say too much here, just for confidentiality reasons, but we had to link the goals with his children. And that's really the power, and that's really kept us going. And I am so proud of this guy so far. He's lost 24 kilograms. He's now doing things like riding bikes with the coach, which are things that he can never do, racing bikes. And just honestly, again, goosebumps now, Gary, as I'm telling you, that's the power of behavioral change, of curating an experience and setting up an environment that is conducive to success, and having a coach that can deliver the sessions with him to hold him accountable day on day. He flies to London 3 times throughout the course of the 12 months to do his tests. VO2 max went from 24 to 43. Which is wild.
That's a huge jump in the VO2 max.
Yeah. So to your point, like that's what we do with the goal setting process. It has to be very, very clear. It has to be specific, and it has to be intrinsically driven. Otherwise, lose weight, tone up, you're just never going to succeed. So that's the outcome. Going back to the process, we don't ever focus on the outcome after that point. We know where we're going.
Set it, and then on we go.
Yeah, and then on we go, and we reverse engineer. Now we focus on daily actions and daily steps. And this is what we call process goal setting. We look at things like how to win the day, or daily non-negotiables, things that you can do every single day that will get you close to the long-term goal. We liken it to building a wall. The goal is to build the wall, the outcome, but we don't ever focus on that anymore. We focus on laying brick by brick by brick. And before you know it, you've reached the outcome. And this is the process, the daily actions. So for context, if someone's goals are to go from 25% body fat to sub 20% body fat, they want to increase lean tissue from X to Y, they want to improve other health markers, VO2 max, they want it to go from 30 to north of 40, then we're going to link some daily actions towards that goal. And some of which may look like drinking 2 liters of water a day. If in Dubai, maybe having an electrolyte tablet every day, because we know the water's not going to cut it. We need the potassium, magnesium, sodium, and calcium from electrolytes to improve cognition, to remove brain fog, and to help muscle actions and contractions, certainly with higher perspiration rate. 10,000 steps a day, though quite an arbitrary number, it adheres to the principle of NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You have 2 individuals, one of which does 2,000 steps a day on average, the other does north of 10,000. For one day, that's not going to do anything. You do that over 30, 60, 90 days and 12 months, it's going to have a profound impact on their body composition and overall health. So again, it's linking in with their longer term goal. It might also be doing some form of physical activity every day. And let me specify on that. I'm not saying you've got to train 7 days a week, but if you train 4 to 5 days a week, if that works with your schedule, again, it's got to be individualized. And then on those other days, maybe you'll do some steps, you'll do some intentional walking, you'll do some mobility work each morning. So you're mastering the art of showing up and being consistent and making it a priority. So you can see these daily actions or daily non-negotiables are all you need to focus on. We get rid of the noise. We don't make this a challenging, over complex, complicated journey. Just focus on those things. And I know from experience that these do work. In fact, we've done these at the highest level of pro sport. Last camp with Conor, we set him up with some daily non-negotiables, and the media came over, and I think he was in the Telegraph because I had it on a whiteboard. Conor's daily non-negotiables were set up. They did a piece about it. But not just that, Gary. We had every member of the team doing daily non-negotiables. In fact, we had this gamification element around steps. And if someone was on 8,000 steps, well, go out and hit your 10,000, or we'd go out and walk as a team. So I'm sure we'll talk about environment as we progress as well. But yeah, that's something that we do.
You mentioned so much there that I want to unpack. Give us, I know it's quite hard to generalize. If someone is listening, what would be 3 to 5? And you mentioned some of them there.
Yeah.
Well, if we can just give people a little playbook of like, these are some non-negotiables just for general health. What would they be?
Okay, someone's starting their journey. They want to improve general health, like you say. They could start with, I'm going to try and have, maybe not even going to 2 to 2.4 grams per kilo body weight, maybe going to 1.8 grams per kilo body weight. You do the math. Body weight times 1.8 equals X amount. And then you can work out, okay, I know that if I'm having 3 meals a day, I'm going to try and have, let's just say 35, 40 grams of protein with each meal. And then they can identify what that looks like. It's not super challenging. So that's step one. The next one could be 2 to 3 liters of water a day. As simple as that. Because so many people are unhydrated, so many people get this cognitive fog, and so many people get this irritability because they're actually dehydrated, which can negatively impact performance. So there's 2. 10,000 steps a day. Just start by moving more. It's as simple as that. And that's how easy it can be. And then if you are starting your journey, like January, for example, Gary, is the time.
It's that you just dread. You love it and hate it. It's like, I've mates mine that own gyms, and they're like, oh, it's great, but it's also like, it's difficult because the fall off is so big.
Exactly.
Because you talk about tiny wins and tiny losses. That's how I think about it.
Yeah.
A tiny win today, it's fine. But a tiny win over 100 days, it's astronomical. I track everything on Strava, and if you just add on a kilometer every day, if you do a warm up that's a little bit longer, like over a year, that could be 300 to 500 extra kilometers over the year. Which is, if you said, "Oh, I need to run an extra 500 kilometers next year," I'd be like, "Oh, come on, that's unrealistic." It's that compound effect that applies everywhere in life. How do you deal with people who don't share your level of discipline?
We start where they stand. This isn't just because I'm saying this and it might be quite overwhelming for many. I hope it's not, 'cause we will give actionable steps and systems, but identify where you are, where your feet are. The problem we've got these days is the comparison effect. Comparison is the thief of joy. This isn't just because I'm getting coached by this individual or I'm speaking to this individual that's where I need to be. Not at all. We just got to break inertia and get the wheels moving. And that's so simple with, like we say, 3 to 5 things you can do each day, getting clear with your goals. And just showing up, and the big C word, consistency. Just keep chipping away. You've alluded to it there. The James Clear Atomic Habits, Sir Dave Brailsford, 1% better every day. Yields a 37 times improvement over the course of a calendar year. This hasn't got to be huge wholesale changes. It just has to be simple things you can apply every single day. But then you've got to do it long enough to ensure that you get the result. It's like the diamond analogy. The chipping away, chipping away. You're not really getting an ROI. So then you give up. Then you go back to your normative way of doing things. It's the worst thing you can do. Just stick with some simple systems for 6 months, 12 months. It can quite literally change your life.
We live in such a distracted world. And you've talked about there a couple of times, comparison's thief of joy. I love that phrase, one of my favorites. How do you, with yourself and with your clients, you said something really interesting there about having it up on the board. I believe I've whiteboards all over my office. I take notes every single morning. How do you, with your clients and with people that are listening, how can you remind them? How do you keep that front of mind all the time? Because it's great sitting down with you. Oh, I did my goals with Dan. It was great. That's fine. First 7 days, probably on it. 2 weeks, probably still on it. 3 weeks, starting to wobble because I've got a birthday or a holiday or whatever. And I'm applying this to life, not just to fitness. How do you keep that discipline and keep that consistency beyond those initial euphoric couple of weeks?
You're right. As with any intervention, I know you did a retreat recently in Marbella. You have this immersive few days where you get crystal clear with the vision, road mapping and so on, that I'm sure you did over there. And then they go away and they feel great. They've got this spring in their step, this impetus, but then do they start to decline? I'm sure not in your instance. I'm sure you've got backup systems after. But
I'm going to text them after now going, Dan just reminded me to check in with you guys.
Exactly. Remember our conversation type thing. But all joking aside, I think you've got to get crystal clear with that roadmap and to get them bought into the process first and foremost, without doubt, with that immersive call strategy, 3 days, however long it takes. But then this is where your systems come in. As any person in business will tell you, you're only as strong as your systems. And that's where the accountability piece comes in. That's why we do the testing, why we do the data, because they know that they've got this next batch of testing that they have to adhere to these systems to get a good result, because they're not going to want to let themselves down, but more importantly, let me and my team down as well. We're in this together, right? So this is where simplicity wins. We don't give them 20 things to do. It's incredibly overwhelming and they're going to fail. And that's because the strategy was not correct. We've just spoken about January. We touched on it briefly. New year, new me. I can absolutely champion the intention, but unfortunately the execution is often suboptimal, i.e. they try and do 20 different things, or they try and go from zero to hero too quickly. They may do no sessions throughout the course of December because they say, January, I'm going to get after it. I'm going to do it in January. Yeah, I'll come out for that drink in December because I'm going to be starting in January. Diet starts Monday, right? And then they go from 0 to 5 sessions a week. Again, great work in terms of the intention. The execution with that acute spike in training loads is very much suboptimal. They heighten injury risk, they fall off track, and then unfortunately by the end of Feb, they're never in the gym again. And then this is the key part from a behavioral change point of view. This isn't just training. This is about identity. They've set a goal and they haven't achieved the goal. How do they feel? They feel like a failure. This is why we keep things so simple with small wins. Can you do these 3 things every day? Like I've mentioned with the non-negotiables. Yeah, Dan, I agree. I can absolutely do those. They then do those for a 4-week period. What does that start doing? They've set a goal. They've achieved it. We champion that. We give them a reward mechanism at the end of that. And then we layer it. We give them 2 or 3 more things. They do that again for 30 days. 6 months down the line, Gary, we've seen a profound shift, not in their training, but their whole identity. And now there's someone who sets a goal and achieves a goal. So any other bigger goal is now attainable to them.
I love this. You talk about identity quite a lot. And that's such a beautiful, like, simplicity is the key to everything, right? Tearing it all back. I was chatting to a founder the other day, and he's had a lot of success for the last couple of years. He goes, you know what, Gary, it's funny. I look back at the first ever deck I did, the first 1-pager, and I'd written down 3 things. And along the way, we got distracted by layering on. And we just got distracted. And he goes, I went back and looked at the 3 things. They were the 3 things that have driven all our success. So like the fundamentals, the basics, doing them over and over and over again. And I love that. You talk about identity quite a lot. I think this is really, really important, because I think this goes to the nub of what we're talking about here. They don't identify as healthy people, or they don't identify as an athlete. How do you slowly shift that? You've talked about there about the 3 habits, the 4 habits, the 5 habits. Is that the key to it?
It's leaning into the person that they wish to become. So we do an in-depth strategy session. We did it with one of our clients. He won't mind me saying his name, Nathan. Nathan was a CEO of a big nationwide business, but he had aspirations to be an international CEO. We coined the term with our in-depth mindset and strategy and goal setting session. So we said, okay, great. What does an international CEO embody? How do they communicate? What do they wear? How do they posture? Where do they stay? All of these things we were very granular and specific with. Next Zoom, Nathan turns up in a fitted suit, shirt, tie, pocket square, and just looked completely different. And over time, we've drilled this. This is, by the way, over an 18-month period. Nathan is now closing very large deals in the GCC because he's now an international CEO of a global organization. And that's the difference, is what do the traits of the person that I want to become embody? Do I embody those traits? How far away am I from them? And then just start leaning into that. And what I'd also say, Gary, on that specifically is I used to hate running, and that's a very strong word.
This surprises me. I've seen you run. This surprises me that you hated running.
Honestly, but that negative self-talk is very, very bad and doesn't allow you to reach your goals. If you say you hate training or identify in this certain way, you'd be shocked to see how bad that can actually be for you and getting to that next level. So I used to verbalize and vocalize that I hated running. I then thought, what am I doing? I banished that negative self-talk. I then said, okay, I'm going to get into running. But what I'm not going to do is wake up at 6 a.m. at the time living in London in the pouring down rain and go and run by myself. That is not setting my environment up for success. I'd probably do it once or twice and be like, nah, not for me. I'm going to stay in bed in the winter months of the UK. But what I did do was this. My friend Jordan, who I'm actually meeting today, he used to pick me up from my place in Richmond. We drove to Richmond Park. We had a great conversation when we were running. He's very growth-minded as well. He works in finance. And then we had a reward mechanism at the end of the run. We'd get a nice bougie coffee. I'm a bit of a coffee snob, Gary, as you probably saw by the Blank Street coffee.
I share that ethos as well. I have very few treats, if you want to call them that, in life. And good coffee is one of them. So I appreciate it.
There we go. And we started small. We didn't start by saying we're going to do 10K or 15K out the gate. We started with 5K. We'd do that a few times. We'd feel good. We'd have no lower limb pain and no fatigue. And then we'd say, okay, now we're going to go not to 10K. We're going to go to 6K. Now we're going to do that a couple of times. Then we get to 7, and you know where this is going. Lo and behold, myself, Jordan, and my friend Bradley in Dubai ran the Burj to Burj half marathon in February, and I now enjoy running. I ran with Conor Benn yesterday, a supreme high-octane, high-level professional athlete. We did 12 kilometers. The week prior, we did 10 kilometers at 4.36 kilometer pace. The week prior, we did 4.41 in Southend with loads of hills. And I'm saying this because I'm actually proud of my own progress. And it started by banishing that negative self-talk, anchoring that negative of I hate running. If I keep saying that, well, there's no way I'm going to then move forwards. So that was the first start. That was the first domino that fell.
But I love how practical that is. You know, Dan, I love how like it's 5 to 6 to 7, because I think people will look at you and kind of go, yeah, but he's an elite coach, he's an elite athlete, he works with elite people. No. And I love how practical this whole conversation has been. 5K to 6K to 7K. Like, that's what it's all about. It's all about breaking that down. You said something fascinating there about the CEO, and I want to go back and I want to give people a little framework here to go and do after this pod. How can you did the exercise with the CEO. What does a global CEO look like? Give people the framework of whatever it is. How does a founder that sells for 100 million, how does like a founder train like an athlete? Give them the framework that they can go and do after this podcast.
I don't want to sound too simple, but we did say, you know, it's the KISS approach. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Simplicity wins. And I'm going to go back to our 4 pillars, Gary, and I will be more specific. Training, nutrition, recovery, mindset. If that CEO wants to exit for 9 figures, then they have to train in some capacity that's right for them, that they can tolerate that amount of stress. If they're going through an exit, what do we know that is very high? Stress. Stress is in that bucket. External stress day in, day out, where they're trying to get an exit. Oh, they realize that they didn't do this right. Oh no, is it all going to fall through? We've put 3 years into this. So stress is very high. So we've got to be mindful of the stress bucket. Maybe we're doing more green days as opposed to the red days, as we spoke about earlier, to just ensure that they're doing something. They're getting some form of hormonal response, the endorphin release from physical exercise. We spoke running. Runners high is definitely a thing. We all get it. And knowing that they're not going to be in the gym ripping up some personal bests in that moment, because that's too much for them. That's too much accumulative stress that they're going to break down. Then it goes to the nutrition. If they're going into this important meeting, they got the final deal, trying to get it over the line, and they've had a McDonald's for breakfast, we know that they're not going to bring their best self. We spoke, prior to this podcast of the things that we did, things that we had for breakfast. I'm very specific and tactile about those. And even the sleep that I had yesterday prior to today, these things play a role in bringing your best self to a moment. So nutrition is vitally important. And then the recovery piece, I've just touched on why sleep is important there. So I think starting with that as a system is important, and having an awareness around that, okay, if I can actually nail these, because the problem we have these days, Gary, is people are looking for the limitless pill. They're looking for the secret sauce. And, yes, there are small hacks, but hack is something that's short term. Build a system on solid foundations, and that's where our 4 pillars come in. Once you have the foundations in place, we can then look at putting the cherry on top of the cake, or probably better on this podcast, not talking about cakes, is the salt on top of the steak, so to speak. You've got to have the steak there first before you do so. And what I'm referring to here is things like your NAD+, your hyperbaric chambers, your saunas, your red light therapy. These are all great, and these are all things that I personally do and a lot of our high-level executives do. But they're pointless if you're only having 4 hours sleep a night.
if
Yeah,
you're not
20
having
protein. Exactly.
Talk to me then about the visualization piece, because you said he looked different, he acted different. If people want to do a little, so I want to give like experiments to people. I want to give like a body experiment, a brain experiment, and a business experiment designed by you. So talk to me then about the visualization piece you did with him to just even change his self-image, his self-talk. If people want to do this, again, get the notebook out. What are the 10 questions or whatever it is? What framework should they use?
Firstly, it was what he listened to. It wasn't just like your point of having an intervention and then not doing anything. It was the follow-up sequence thereafter. So he'd listened to Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Kennedy. He'd listened to Dr. Bob Rotella has a book called How Champions Think, which is incredible. Alan Stein Jr., Raise Your Game, which all of my athletes listen to. So I gave him, dare I say, homework to do after every strategy session. He'd then come back to me with clear takeaways and lessons that he learned from that. We'd then unpack those lessons in the context of him and his situation and then go a little bit further there. So he'd always do the deep work. In fact, I was blown away by his speed of implementation. You mentioned Mark earlier, actually, and Mark did the same. He said, Dan, I've got to connect you with this guy in Dubai. I trained with him. I just got back in the taxi from the Palm to go back to my place in Business Bay. I had an email intro just like that instantaneously. And for me, that's a trait of a high performer is procrastination. Like, are you an implementer? Or are you an implementer or are you a procrastinator? If you procrastinate over time, it builds, and you never get it done. So speed of implementation is key. That's what Nathan did. Is he'd come back to me, Gary, on literally 3 days, 4 days later and be like, Dan, I finished X book. And I'm like, Nathan, we spoke 3 days ago. That's wild. But again, it just goes to show that he really, one, valued the conversations we had. 2, was crystal clear with his goals. And 3, knew that this growth mindset of doing deep work on himself would yield an ROI. So I think, to your question, just what did he implement? He just showed up. He was just consistent. He had clarity with the goal. And he knew doing these small tasks each day would actually get him closer to it. And that's how simple it can be.
Is there specific questions people should ask themselves?
I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but it's the goals. You just got to get clear with what that looks like. And then the question they may ask themselves is each day, am I bringing myself closer to or further away from said goal? Nathan was a unique case because he truly embodied everything that we went over. I think the questions you can ask yourself is around standards as well. Like, I've got a thing at the gym of, I don't give up. I don't give up on a rep. I'll push myself, and within those realms of safety and technical breakdown. Of course, by the way, please, if anyone's listening, don't just crush yourself under a bar because you heard it on Gary and Dan's podcast.
I was doing this yesterday. We were doing wall balls. I hate wall balls, and I felt this shearing pain down my right knee. And I was like, oh, I was 60 in out of 100. And I was like, So I went into a couch stretch really quickly. And I was like, you finish when you're done, not when you're hurt. And I finished it out and it was fine. But like, it's pushing through those moments of temporary discomfort to do that. I think that's really important. So the speed of implementation, I couldn't agree more. Any of the great people I meet, it's almost discomforting how quickly they'll work and how quickly they'll action things. And it's something I've taken from them. So I take a little piece from every guest and it's like, I've written speed on the wall.
Nice.
Speed is written on my wall because it was one thing I did suffer with. It was procrastination because it was overthinking. Yeah. And everything is downstream because you're like, oh no, I'll come back to that later. Mark unread. The worst habit I have. Yeah. Mark unread. And it really held me back for a very long time.
To your question about systems, we actually do have one. It's the 5-minute rule. If something takes less than 5 minutes, do it there and then. Don't let it build, because if you have 10 to 15 5-minute tasks, it becomes incredibly overwhelming and none of them get done. And then if they were to get done, they're then taking you away from the big needle moving tasks. You've got the Eisenhower method of like the 3 big tasks of the day, do them first thing in the morning. And then you have your lower end task. You could color code this or whatever way works best for you if you're more visual. But those small tasks, 5-minute rule, just get them done. Mark sending that email, that's a 30-second thing. So he got it done. He moves on to the next thing. Otherwise, you're losing this cognition that's pulling you into these small tasks, which is really taking you away from the big task that's going to, move the needle for you.
Yeah, it's those micro. It's bandwidth. I think of my brain in terms of like tabs in a browser. Yeah, more tabs I've opened.
Great way of putting it.
And they're just like 20 tabs, 30 tabs. I'll come back to that later. And then close them all, refresh, start again. So I use a notebook. I carry this everywhere with me. put it in the notebook and it's out of my brain.
Agreed. Notebook, whiteboards, like all of that is really, really helpful. The basics.
As we approach, because I'm conscious of your time, as we approach our end, we've got a little bit more time. I want to talk practicals. So I want 3 different experiments people can run over the next whatever week, month, year. You can decide the time frame. So one for their body, one for their brain, and one for their business, to really kind of move them towards the levels of where you are and your clients are. So let's start with a brain. What one thing can people do over the next 7, 30, 60 days, whatever you want to set, to just start moving the needle like you talked about?
20 minutes a day of intentional learning. And that can be anything. It could be listening to a podcast. It could be listening to an audiobook. It could be reading a book, whatever works best for you. It could even be having powerful, intentional conversations and putting yourselves in rooms that enable you to grow. I truly believe environment dictates outcomes. You lay down with dogs, you come up with fleas. There's another one from Tony Robbins. So if you're 4 friends and you're the 5th friend, going to the pub and drinking beers every weekend at the weekend, you're going to be the fifth person who does that. I'm not saying to completely cut ties with your friendship group, but I am probably saying if you do want to improve, as you've alluded to, then you probably need to look at a slightly different environment, a slightly different peer group that want to champion and elevate each other and want to grow. So that would be the first one for the brain, is do some intentional learning for 20 minutes a day. And then looking in the mirror, sounding a bit harsh now, have a look at yourself. If you say you want to achieve something and not willing to do 20 minutes a day, then you don't really want it that much.
I love that word, intentional. That word, I love it. Are you acting with intent? I love that so much. You can be as harsh as you like. Yeah. I think sometimes you have to. I think we live in quite a soft world. Yeah. I think you have to be, if you're not honest with yourself, you'll never be honest with other people, and you're never going to get anywhere. It's lies you'll tell yourself. Environment dictates outcome. I completely agree. Like, this is something we talk about in this podcast a lot, is you have to see it to be it. I say this all the time because I think of this podcast as like a mentor for people who don't have mentors, or a mentor for people who can access them. And it's that thing, you have to see it. You have to be able to see down and go, oh. And I've done this myself. When I meet people, I'm like, wow, I thought the dial was turned up to 10. It turns out the dial goes to 100. That's not a 10, Gary.
But that's because Gary's in the right room with the right people to see what's possible.
I call it the next room. My theory is the next room.
Yeah.
Who is in the next room?
Love it.
And why are they there? What are they doing? It's a Wednesday at 3:00. What are they doing in the next room? And I think of it in practical terms like that. And thankfully, over the years, I've been able to move through these different rooms by meeting all these different people. So talk to me then about the body experiment. What can we apply to people here?
I'm going to use the word intentional again. If you're a high-level executive or other, someone who's very busy, in a chronic state of stress, who has meeting after meeting, if you want to improve your body, be intentional with booking that into your diary, like you would an important meeting. That's where it starts, because that's your intent to actually making a change. Nothing can get in the way of that. What I would also say from the experience we have with our high-level clients is try and do that first thing in the morning. I'm not saying everyone's got to train in the morning, but the likelihood of it happening as the day goes on starts to reduce hour on hour. We're putting out fires. We all are with our business and everything else that we have going on. We get pulled left, right, and center. Everyone's vying for our attention. The likelihood of that session happening, post midday is lower. Just get it done. And eat the frog in the morning, get it done, and then, win the rest of your day.
I completely agree. Like, your energy credits go down.
Yeah.
My discipline goes down as the day. I consider myself an extremely disciplined person, but I find gets to 2:00, my discipline starts to waver. Those little doubts creep into your head. I train 6:30 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
I don't think about it now. Whereas before, I'd be like, oh, what time will I train today?
Yeah.
What will I train today? So by joining an elite gym, they have the systems mapped out. I don't have to think about what I'm training today because it's on the blade screen.
And you build the habit of showing up. You just turn up. All you got to do is turn up, do the work. So
let's make that tactical. Let's, like, 20 minutes a day of intentional learning. That's very clear. That's the numbers, right? We're going to go back to the numbers. What should people do over the next 3 to 6 months for that to be a solid experiment?
I did it with Nathan. I'm not saying you've got to join our program or hire a coach where you actually reflect on that and you're held accountable to it. The accountability piece is really important because Nathan knew that I'd be checking and challenging him on what he was listening to. I just didn't expect it to be done in 3 days as with him. But I think if you can have an environment of your peers where this would be the gold standard, right? And how much reality, how realistic this is of course contextual to the individuals. But imagine you had 3 to 5 friends who are all you made an agreement, all looking to go to the next level. and you said, right, each month we're going to go over one of these books. We're all going to listen to it, and then we're just going to chill with each other for half a day and go over some of the lessons and findings. Well, if you hadn't listened to it and then you're in the room with them, how are you going to feel? Well, you know that likely you're not going to get the call to be there next month. And that's where environment is so key, is the accountability piece with your peers or other is so important. So as much as we can say, do the work, do 20 minutes a day, which I truly believe in, but unfortunately when things happen or you miss a day, then it becomes problematic. That goes back to standards, Gary, is what standards do I hold myself to? Am I someone who says, this is a non-negotiable standard? I don't negotiate with this. This just happens every day, 20 minutes. If it's an audiobook, is it that when I got the train here today, I listen to it? Is it when I get home, I put it on a sleep timer in bed and, listen to the 20 minutes before going to sleep? Whatever works for you, but you have to get it done.
So for the body, what can we do?
Body, obviously getting the session locked in is important. I think getting clear with the goals and having ways of tracking progress is key. And then also having a reward mechanism for when you do hit those targets is important. So you get that hormonal response, endorphin release of saying, I've achieved X. And what I would say is when you do reward yourself, try and keep it semi-aligned with health. If you want to go off track and have a burger and chips, then, absolutely fine. You've earned it.
Semi-aligned with health. I like how you put that. So let's say a set number of sessions per week, whatever that is, a set time, set the date, track it, keep it accountable.
Exactly that. And start where you stand from the training frequency point of view. If you're doing those sessions, probably best to start with 3 sessions. That might look like 2 weight sessions, total body. Don't just go and do leg day. Don't just go and do upper body day, because the accumulative stress you're putting on those tissues is going to be too high. You're then going to be hobbling around, not being able to get up off the toilet. You're then going to be anchoring a negative thought process towards the gym environment. Again, intention was pure, strategy wasn't. Just do a total body workout twice. What that might look like: push up, a goblet squat, a pulling exercise. There's your first series. Second series might be a hinging pattern like a deadlift. It might be a vertical pushing pattern going overhead with a shoulder, and it might be another pulling pattern. And then maybe you finish with a little bit of engine work on the assault bike. That's a session, and it might last 60 minutes with some mobility thrown in at the start. And then you might do a cardio session. That might be the green zone that we spoke about earlier on the bike for 30 to 40 minutes. You do that for 4 weeks. Then you're gradually accumulating more stress. Maybe on week 2, you increase the weight fractionally. Then that's a progressive approach. You then evaluate after 30 days. How did I feel? Was I hobbling around? Could I have done longer in the gym? Could I have lifted heavier? Then you might change the strategy. You might add one thing, and that's frequency. You may go from 2 weights and 1 cardio to 2 weights and 2 cardio. And then you do that for 30 days. So this is where there has to be a clear strategy of what you do.
Recovering from a cyber attack costs a fortune, and for some businesses, it's game over. Prevention is faster, smarter, and a fraction of the cost. Nostra's Cloud Shield 365 is an all-in-one security solution that blocks attacks before they happen, with round-the-clock monitoring and Microsoft-grade protection. Don't wait until you're counting the cost of a breach. Visit nostra.ie, that's nostra.ie, and protect your business right now. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share a game changer for your business: Azure Communications. When it comes to print and marketing solutions, these folks, led by CEO Jenny Johnston, are the real deal. Whether you need an eye-catching brochure, sleek business cards, or a full-blown digital campaign, Azure Communications has you covered. They're not just about high-quality prints or digital campaigns, they're also about delivering great results. And here's the best part. Just for listeners of the Entrepreneur Experiment, you can get 20% off your first order. Just give them a call or go online and use the code VOX20. With personalized service and fast turnaround times, Azure Communications will help you make the impact your business deserves. Trust me, when it comes to making your brand stand out, Azure Communications is the provider of choice. Check them out at azurecom.ie, use code VOX20 and elevate your marketing game today.
Going to go to our quick fire round.
Let's do it.
What book has had the most impact on you?
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
It is sensational. I watch a lot of his content.
It's brilliant,
It is. Because again, simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an incredible recommendation.
The other one on that, Gary, I know with quickfire, Who Not How. I mentioned it earlier. Don't tell me how to do something, find me someone who can do it. I think both of those books are semi-interchangeable with each other.
Who Not How.
Yeah, really good.
Excellent. What's your superpower, Dan?
It's not glamorous, but consistency. I just show up every day. I bring my best self every day, and I take pride on doing so.
What daily habit is the secret to your success?
Probably just said it, just showing up. But I think training is really important for me. Training is the glue that holds everything together. I do it for so much more than just physiology. I do it for psychology. It really helps me be a high performer, really helps shape my identity. So for me, training is a habit that I embody that's more than lifting weights.
What's been the most interesting experiment that's led to a positive outcome in your own life?
Dubai. Taking a risk, believing there was something more. Great life in London, incredible network, working with the best athletes on the planet, being the high performance guy, but always believing that there was more. And at first, it wasn't easy. I pushed through, and that for me is where success comes from in those moments.
I'm going to give you €1 million. You can invest it in one per beer where you're welcome. It's a joint investment. You know a lot of good people. I'm going to give you €1 million. You can invest it in one person or one company, not yourself. Who is it?
Established companies, global brands, or
we're in it together. It can be anybody as long as you're backing it.
My next meeting's with Casper Bass, the founder of Joe and the Juice. Casper was a mentor of mine, a good friend.
That's both a great call and a good flex. After Gary, very important, I've gone on to Joe and the Juice.
Most important first, Gary, of course. But something like that. My friend Bobby Jurett has an incredible company called Uno. It's an executive travel company in London. He has an incredible journey. You could probably get him on. Started on the fruit and veg stalls and now has this has this huge brand in the UK, which looks after all of the top artists. It's mega.
Oh, that's really cool.
And a number of my clients, high level execs, invested in him. And this was great for me, is the giving back approach. It's like I can help my client win, potentially. Obviously, we know investment in a company is never guaranteed, and also help Bobby as well. So I love his work ethic and ethos, and I believe that business is going to.
What's his name and company? Just so people
Bobby Jurett, and it's Uno. I've always pronounced the name wrong, but Uno, number one, numero uno, OUNO, executive travel in the UK, deals with Soho House and many others. It's high level.
Nice. If you were starting again from 2025, what would you build?
For me, it's got to be around health and performance, because it's what gets me up out of bed in the morning. I do this for more than money. I believe in my worth, but I also believe in what I say and do. That's why I talk with such assertiveness and belief, because it changes people's lives. If every individual could get 1% better every day, we'd be in an incredible place, and it would be health and wellness. We're working on something now, myself and one of my clients, a 9-figure exit, in the AI space and performance space. I won't say too much, but it's merging the two together to deliver like an all-encompassing platform, should we say, without saying too much.
Okay, we might put the million in there. Final couple of questions. What do you believe other people would strongly disagree with you on?
What do I believe other people would strongly disagree with me on? People may not agree with the way I carry my day out. Like, I show up every day, and to some it might be, oh no, that's way too much, that's unattainable, have some fun. I have fun, of course I do. I have fun in different ways, and they might not agree with that. They might say, oh, let your hair down, and of course every now and again I will, but that would probably be it. It might not be for everyone, but it works for me.
Doesn't matter. As Dan Martell would say, if I'm too much, find less.
There we go.
I like his phrase when he puts that. What's been your worst investment?
Okay, so this is a good one. I raised 7 figures for a drinks brand off a single ticket. I didn't sign the contract in advance because the guy was taking a long time with this, and I walked away from it. I was supposed to have double-digit equity in the company, 2% vested over 5 years, and it just became something that dragged. I utilized my black book, through one of my high-level billionaire clients. And that was something that I invested not just, well, a lot of time, but also a lot of energy in. And this is why I mean energy is important, because I, could have easily still be involved with that. By one call, I could get back into it because I know the value that I can bring to that as well. But I walked away because I believe my energy needs to be protected to serve the people that I serve. So that for me was my worst investment, not monetary, but time, energy, and years of experience in my black book.
What's been your best investment?
Myself. Like, my best investment is in myself every day. Like, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to grow. I've learned a lot today and absorbed, neuroplasticity is a thing. The brain is malleable. You can absorb and learn from every interaction with every individual. I think I continue to invest in myself on a day-to-day basis to become better, which enables then for me to serve others so they can become better.
What's been the best bit of advice you've given or gotten in the last 12 months?
The best advice I've got, whether it's 12 or 24 or 36 months, but is what got you to X level won't get you to the next level. Going back to Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time, going back to Who Not How, is I felt like I took my business to the highest level by myself. And I've realized that I should have earlier on invested more in a team. We now have a team of 14. My head of operations, Jamie, actually, he was living back in Ireland. Jamie McGill, he now lives in Portugal, and he's been an incredible acquisition full time. He lives in Kinta, and that was a great move because he's truly invested in the brand, the business, the growth, and really believes in it. I wish I'd have had a hire like him sooner, because it's great to just bounce my ideas off someone, but someone who actually gives a shit. That's important. I've had way too many B players for way too long, and that's my own fault because I wasn't willing to invest enough money to get A players. So now that's really been a big wake-up call.
Dan, that was a sensational chat. Where can people learn more about you or maybe even join your program?
Thanks, Gary. Firstly, appreciate the conversation. Great questions. Love the pod. And Dan Lawrence 365 on Instagram. The business is Perform365. www.perform365.life. But any questions, any follow-up, I'll always be accessible. And hopefully there was some value in this for the listeners.
Where's the best place to reach you?
Probably Instagram or LinkedIn as well. Dan Lawrence. I won't leave my phone number on here, but Instagram would be probably the best one in today's world.
Brilliant. Dan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Gary.